The ice storms of Europa never ceased, but Commander Talia Winter had learned to find beauty in their savage dance. Through the reinforced viewport of Research Station Hyperion, she watched crystalline snowflakes swirl against the perpetual twilight of Jupiter's massive form hanging overhead. 6 months into her deployment on this frozen moon, she'd grown accustomed to the isolation, the endless maintenance routines, and the constant symphony of ice cracking beneath their feet. What she wasn't accustomed to was the signal now pulsing through their communications array. "Commander, you need to see this." Lieutenant Reed's voice crackled through her comm unit. "The signal, it's like nothing in our database." Talia was already moving, her boots echoing through Hyperion's corridors as she made her way to the command center. The signal's wavelength displayed across their main screen in impossible patterns, geometric shapes that seemed to fold in on themselves in ways that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. "How long?" she asked, studying the mesmerizing display. 17 minutes since first detection. It's coming from beneath the ice sheet, approximately 3 kilometers down. Reed's fingers danced across his console. "But that's impossible. Our surveys showed nothing but solid ice at that depth." Talia knew better. 6 months of watching Europa's endless ice fields had taught her one thing: this moon kept secrets. "Get me a thermal scan of the area." The screen shifted, revealing a heat signature that made her breath catch. A perfect sphere of warmth nestled within the ice, and at its center, something was moving. "Prep the deep ice crawler," she ordered, already reaching for her thermal suit. "And get Dr. Patel on the line. If there's something alive down there, we're going to need our xenobiologist." The crawler's descent through Europa's ice sheet was treacherous. Each meter brought new challenges as ancient ice sheets groaned and shifted around them. Dr. Patel sat beside her, monitoring their environmental readings with growing excitement. "The composition of the ice is changing," he reported. "There are trace elements here that shouldn't exist naturally. And look at these energy readings." The crawler's lights illuminated something ahead that made them both fall silent. The ice had given way to a perfectly spherical chamber, its walls smooth as glass. But it was what floated at its center that demanded their attention, a vessel of impossible design, its surface rippling like liquid mercury despite being clearly solid. "Life signs?" Talia asked, her training kicking in despite her awe. "1. Weak but stable. And..." Dr. Patel paused, rechecking his readings. "It's humanoid." The next hour was a blur of careful maneuvering and precise calculations. Getting to the vessel was one challenge, getting inside was another entirely. Its surface responded to touch in ways that defied physics, eventually revealing an entrance that seemed to recognize their intent rather than any specific mechanism. Inside, they found her. She lay in what appeared to be a suspension chamber, her form both familiar and alien. Her skin had a translucent quality that reminded Talia of the ice outside, with delicate patterns that shifted beneath its surface like flowing water. But it was her eyes that struck Talia most when they finally opened, deep violet pools that seemed to hold entire galaxies within them. "Be still," the alien spoke, her voice carrying an ethereal quality that their universal translators struggled to process. "The hibernation separation can be disorienting. I'm Commander Talia Winter of the Earth Alliance Research Station Hyperion." Talia introduced herself, maintaining a professional distance despite her fascination. "Can you tell us who you are and how you came to be here?" The alien's expression shifted in a way that suggested both relief and concern. "I am Naira, First Guardian of the Crystalline Concordat. And if I am awakening now..." She struggled to sit up, her movements graceful despite her obvious weakness. "Then the timing is worse than we feared." Dr. Patel moved forward to assist her, his medical scanner whirring. "Your cellular structure is fascinating. It appears to be in a state of quantum flux, as if I exist partially in another dimension." Naira finished for him, a ghost of a smile crossing her ethereal features. "That would be correct. My people evolved beyond simple physical form millennia ago. But right now, we have more pressing concerns. Her violet eyes fixed on Talia with an intensity that made the commander's spine straighten. Your people's presence here is no accident, Commander Winter. We've been watching humanity's progress, waiting for the right moment. I never imagined first contact would happen like this, but time grows short. Short for what? Talia asked, even as her tactical training screamed that this situation was rapidly moving beyond standard first contact protocols. Naira's response was cut short by a violent tremor that shook the ice chamber. Above them, the crawler's sensors began blaring warnings. Multiple objects entering Europa's orbit, Reed's voice cracked through their comms. They just appeared out of nowhere, sir. Energy signatures are off the charts. Naira's expression darkened. They followed my temporal wake. Commander, you must listen carefully. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but the fate of both our species depends on your belief. The beings pursuing me. They're not just from another world, they're from another time. And they've come to prevent an alliance that could change the course of galactic history. As if to punctuate her words, another tremor rocked the chamber, and this time, Talia could hear the distinct sound of ice cracking above them. Their window of opportunity was closing fast, and she had to make a decision that could affect not just her crew, but potentially all of humanity. Dr. Patel, help our guest to the crawler. Whatever's happening up there, we'll have a better chance of dealing with it from the station. She activated her comm link. Reed, warm up our defense systems. Something tells me we're going to need them. As they made their way back to the crawler, Talia couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just first contact. This was the beginning of something much bigger, and Europa's endless ice fields would soon become the battlefield for a conflict that transcended both space and time. The journey back to Hyperion Station was tense, with Jupiter's massive form casting long shadows across Europa's icy surface. Commander Winter kept one eye on their pursuit and another on their unusual passenger. Naira sat perfectly still in the crawler's cabin, her crystalline form seeming to pulse in rhythm with the emergency lights. 3 vessels have entered Europa's atmosphere, Lieutenant Reed reported through the comms. Their design, it's unlike anything in our database. They're moving in patterns that shouldn't be possible in normal space. They're riding temporal waves, Naira explained, her voice carrying that strange harmonic quality that made the crawler's instruments flutter. My pursuers are what we call the chronohive, beings who've abandoned their physical forms to exist as consciousness spread across multiple timelines. Dr. Patel's medical scanner whirred as he studied their guest. Fascinating. Your own quantum state seems to shift when you mention them. Are you somehow connected to these beings? They were once my people, Naira's expression shifted like ice catching sunlight. 3,000 years ago, the crystalline Concordat discovered the ability to view alternate timelines. Some saw it as a tool for understanding. Others. She gestured to the ships above them, saw it as a way to control reality itself. The crawler crested a final ridge, bringing Hyperion Station into view. The research facility's dark metal form stood in stark contrast to Europa's white expanse, its defense turrets already tracking the unknown vessels above. Commander, Reed's voice carried an edge of panic, they're broadcasting some kind of signal. It's affecting our systems. Base shields are fluctuating. Talia made a quick decision. Route emergency power to the shields. Dr. Patel, get our guest to the medical bay as soon as we dock. I want to know everything about her biology that might help us understand what we're dealing with. As they approached the station's airlock, Naira suddenly grabbed Talia's arm. Her touch was surprisingly warm, sending a slight electrical tingle through the commander's suit. There's something you need to understand. The Chronohive isn't just trying to capture me, they're trying to prevent a future where humanity and the Concordat work together. Why? Talia asked as they rushed through decontamination. What's so special about our species working together? Because, Naira's violet eyes seemed to look through time itself, in the future they're trying to prevent, we find a way to close the temporal rifts they use to manipulate reality. Your species' linear perception of time, combined with our quantum understanding of it, creates something they never expected, a way to heal the damage they've done to the fabric of space-time. The station shook as the first attacks began. Through the viewport, Talia watched as strange energy pulses rippled across Hyperion's shields, creating patterns that hurt her eyes to look at. "They're trying to phase the station out of normal space-time," Naira explained, steadying herself against a wall. "Once they succeed, they can rewrite this entire encounter. Your people will never know we existed." Dr. Patel's eyes widened as he studied his readings. "Commander, the atomic structure of the station's outer hull is becoming unstable. It's as if it's existing in multiple states simultaneously." Talia had faced everything from ice storms to radiation surges during her command, but this was beyond her experience. "How do we fight an enemy that can manipulate time itself?" "We don't," Naira straightened, her form becoming more crystalline as she seemed to draw energy from the air itself. "But we can show them why they fear our alliance so much. Dr. Patel, your quantum field generator, the one you use for deep ice core analysis, could you modify it to amplify a temporal signature?" The scientist blinked in surprise. "Theoretically, yes, but the power requirements would be enormous." "Route everything we've got to that generator," Talia ordered, already moving toward the command center. "Lieutenant Reed, initiate Emergency Protocol 7. If we're going down fighting." As they worked, Naira revealed more about the conflict that had brought her to Europa. The Chronohive had spent millennia perfecting their control over time, viewing themselves as the ultimate evolution of consciousness. But their manipulation of temporal energy had consequences they refused to acknowledge. "Reality is fraying," she explained while helping Dr. Patel modify the quantum field generator. "Each timeline they alter creates ripples that damage the very fabric of existence. In the future they're trying to prevent, our peoples discover this truth and find a way to restore natural temporal flow." Another blast rocked the station. Through the command center's windows, Talia watched as parts of Hyperion's outer structure seemed to fade in and out of existence. "Generator modifications complete," Dr. Patel reported. "But we'll only get one shot at this. The power surge will likely fry every system we have." Naira placed her crystalline hands on the modified device. "What they never understood is that time isn't meant to be controlled. It's meant to be experienced, to flow naturally like the ice rivers beneath Europa's surface." She looked at Talia with those galaxy-filled eyes. "Your people remind us of what we once were, beings who embraced the linear journey of existence instead of trying to master it." Quantum field fluctuations increasing, Reed reported from his station. "They're making another attempt to phase us out of normal spacetime." Talia met Naira's gaze and nodded. Sometimes the most important decisions weren't about following protocols or understanding every detail, they were about trusting your instincts about who to believe. "Do it," she ordered. Naira's form began to glow as she channeled her own quantum energy through the modified generator. The air itself seemed to crystallize around them as two different approaches to manipulating time, the Chronohive's brutal force and the Concordat's harmonious understanding, clashed in the space above Europa. What happened next would change humanity's understanding of reality forever, but as the generator powered up and temporal energy filled the station, Talia realized some changes couldn't be stopped, they could only be shaped by those brave enough to face them. The quantum field generator's energy pulse lit up Europa's sky like a newborn star. Through Hyperion's viewports, Commander Winter watched as reality itself seemed to ripple and fold, the Chronohive ships caught in waves of temporal energy that made them flicker like bad holograms. "Remarkable," Dr. Patel breathed, his instruments struggling to process what they were recording. "The quantum interference pattern is creating a sort of temporal dead zone. They can't maintain their grip across multiple timelines." But victory, Talia realized, had come at a cost. Warning lights flashed across every console as Hyperion's systems began to fail. The station's power grid, overtaxed by the quantum pulse, was shutting down section by section. Life support at 40% and falling, Lieutenant Reed reported, his fingers dancing across his darkening console. Hull integrity compromised in sections 3 through 7. We need to evacuate, Commander. Naira stood unsteadily, her crystalline form dimmer than before. The energy she'd channeled through the generator had taken its toll. They'll be back, she warned. What we did here, it only proved to them how dangerous our alliance could be. They'll return with more ships, more power. Talia made a decision that would likely end her career if they survived. Reed, initiate evacuation protocols. Get everyone to the deep space shuttles. She turned to Dr. Patel. How much of your research can we save? The scientist was already downloading data cores. The most critical findings, yes. But Commander, the Earth Alliance protocols for station abandonment clearly state. We're way past protocols, Talia cut him off. The Chronohive just tried to erase us from existence. I think that qualifies as extenuating circumstances. As the station's remaining crew rushed to the evacuation bays, Talia found herself working alongside Naira to transfer essential data and equipment. The alien princess moved with grace even in her weakened state, her knowledge of quantum mechanics proving invaluable in preserving the most critical research. Your people, Talia ventured during a brief pause in their work, the ones who didn't join the Chronohive, where are they now? Naira's expression shifted like ice catching starlight. Hidden. Scattered across time and space in places the Chronohive wouldn't think to look. Some, like the sanctuary where I was headed before they caught my trail, exist partially out of phase with normal spacetime. Another section of the station groaned as temporal aftershocks continued to wreak havoc on its structure. They had maybe an hour before Hyperion became completely uninhabitable. Commander. Reed's voice crackled through what remained of the comm system. Long-range sensors are picking up temporal distortions at the edge of the system. They're coming back. Dr. Patel emerged from his lab, arms full of data cores. The shuttles are prepped, but they're not designed for long-term space flight. The nearest Earth Alliance outpost is 3 weeks away at best speed. We're not going to an Earth Alliance outpost, Naira stated, her violet eyes meeting Talia's with an intensity that made the commander's breath catch. I can guide us to one of the Concordat's hidden sanctuaries, but... She hesitated, the journey will change you. All of you. The human mind isn't meant to perceive reality the way my people do. And if we don't go with you? Talia asked, already knowing the answer. The Chronohive will find you. They'll erase this encounter, rewrite your destinies. Everything that makes you uniquely human, your adaptability, your linear perception of time that so perfectly complements our quantum understanding, it will be lost. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Through the viewport, Talia could see pieces of Hyperion's outer structure beginning to break away, caught in Europa's endless ice storms. How long do we have before those temporal distortions reach us? She asked Reed. 20 minutes, maybe less. Talia looked at her crew, the men and women who had trusted her to lead them on what was supposed to be a routine research mission. Now she was asking them to abandon not just their station, but potentially their entire understanding of reality. Anyone who wants to try for the Earth Alliance outpost can take Shuttle 2, she announced. I won't order you to face whatever's waiting for us in that sanctuary. To her surprise, not a single crew member moved toward the second shuttle. Dr. Patel actually stepped closer to Naira, his scientific curiosity clearly overwhelming any fear. The Concordat has a saying, Naira offered, her voice carrying that strange harmonic quality that made the air itself seem to vibrate. The greatest discoveries lie not in the destination, but in how we allow the journey to change us. As they loaded the last of the essential equipment into Shuttle 1, Talia found herself reflecting on how much had changed in the past few hours. She had started her day as a research station commander, bound by protocols and procedures. Now she was about to lead her crew into a realm of existence that humanity had never been meant to experience. Course coordinates ready, Reed reported from the shuttle's pilot seat. Though I have to say, some of these numbers don't make sense in three-dimensional space. They won't, Naira confirmed, taking a seat beside him. We'll be traveling through what your people might call quantum space. The sanctuary exists in a fold between moments, a place the chronohive's temporal manipulations can't reach. The shuttle's engines hummed to life as the last of Hyperion's systems failed around them. Through the viewport, Talia watched her station break apart, pieces of it scattering across Europa's icy surface like seeds being planted for some future discovery. Commander, Dr. Patel called from his station, the temporal distortions are accelerating. We need to leave now. Talia took one last look at the place that had been her home for the past 6 months. Take us out, Lieutenant. And Naira? She turned to their mysterious passenger. I hope your sanctuary is ready for guests. Something tells me humanity is about to make one hell of a first impression. As the shuttle lifted off, leaving the ruins of Hyperion behind, none of them could have predicted just how right she would be. The sanctuary awaited, and with it, a transformation that would challenge everything they thought they knew about reality, time, and what it truly meant to be human. The journey to the sanctuary defied everything humanity thought they knew about space travel. As their shuttle passed through what Naira called quantum space, reality outside their viewport became a kaleidoscope of possibilities. Dr. Patel's instruments recorded phenomena that shouldn't have been possible, while Lieutenant Reed struggled to pilot through dimensions that shouldn't have existed. The human mind, Naira explained as she helped stabilize their course, typically perceives time as a river, flowing in one direction. What you're seeing now is time as an ocean, with currents and depths that flow in all directions at once. Talia watched as her crew adapted to their new reality with varying degrees of success. Some, like Dr. Patel, seemed energized by the impossible readings on their instruments. Others had retreated into themselves, overwhelmed by perceptions their minds weren't designed to process. There, Naira pointed to something ahead that made everyone's eyes water trying to focus on it. The sanctuary. At first glance, it appeared to be a structure of impossible crystalline geometry, neither fully solid nor completely ethereal. As they drew closer, Talia realized it wasn't just a building, it was a fold in reality itself, a place where multiple timelines converged and stabilized. By the stars, Reed whispered as he guided their shuttle toward what seemed to be a docking area. It's like looking at a dream made solid. The landing was smoother than Talia expected, though her inner ear protested at movements that seemed to happen both forward and sideways simultaneously. As they disembarked, they were met by figures similar to Naira, crystalline beings whose forms shifted and flowed like liquid light. Welcome to Chronohaven, one of them stepped forward, their form solidifying slightly to appear more humanoid. I am Sentinel Zoran. Princess Naira, we had hoped you would reach us, though perhaps not with such interesting companions. They proved themselves worthy of our trust, Naira responded, her own form seeming to resonate with the sanctuary's energy. The Chronohive attacked openly. They've grown bolder than we anticipated. Zoran's form rippled with what might have been concern. Then we must proceed quickly. Commander Winter, your crew's presence here is unprecedented, but perhaps it is also prophesied. Please, follow me. As they were led deeper into the sanctuary, Talia noticed her perception beginning to shift. The impossible geometries that had initially hurt to look at started to make a strange kind of sense. It was as if her mind was being gently expanded to accommodate new ways of seeing reality. What you're experiencing, Dr. Patel explained, his scientific excitement barely contained, appears to be a form of quantum entanglement with the sanctuary itself. Our very consciousness is being attuned to perceive multiple dimensional states simultaneously. They entered what Talia could only describe as a control center, though that term felt inadequate. The room seemed to exist in multiple places at once, with surfaces that served functions her human mind was only beginning to grasp. Look here, Zoran gestured to what might have been a display, though it appeared more like a window into time itself. The Chronohive's actions have caused more damage than even we realized. Their manipulation of temporal energy has created fractures in the fabric of reality. The display showed something that made Talia's newly expanded consciousness recoil, gaps in existence itself, places where time and space had been torn apart by the Chronohive's reckless manipulation of reality. These fractures, Naira continued, are spreading. Each time they attempt to rewrite history, they create new tears. If left unchecked, they will eventually unravel the very foundation of existence. But why show us this? Talia asked, though part of her was beginning to understand. What can we possibly do against beings who can manipulate time itself? Zoran and Naira exchanged what might have been glances. Because, Commander, your people possess something unique, a linear perspective of time that acts as an anchor point in reality. Combined with our quantum understanding, we could stabilize the fractures, Dr. Patel finished, his eyes wide with realization. Our linear perception of cause and effect, when merged with your quantum manipulation abilities, could create a framework for healing reality itself. Another sentinel approached, their form flickering with urgency. The Chronohive has discovered our location. They're attempting to phase the entire sanctuary out of temporal sync. Talia felt it immediately, a sensation like reality trying to slip sideways around them. The human crew members staggered, their newly expanded perceptions struggling to cope with the attack. But something unexpected was happening. Where the Chronohive's temporal energy met the combined presence of humans and Concordat members, it seemed to stabilize. The very thing that made humans primitive in the Chronohive's eyes, their linear perception of time, was acting as an anchor point for reality itself. Quick, Naira moved to what appeared to be a control interface. Commander, I need you and your crew to focus. Think of time as you've always known it, linear, flowing forward like a river. Let your minds be the bedrock upon which we can build. As the human crew concentrated, the Concordat members began channeling their quantum energy through the sanctuary's systems. The combination created something entirely new, a field of stable temporal energy that began to push back against the Chronohive's attack. It's working, Zoran observed with what might have been awe. The merger of our perspectives is creating a template for how time should naturally flow. We're not just defending ourselves, we're beginning to heal the fractures. Through the sanctuary's displays, Talia watched as their combined energy began to seal the tears in reality. The Chronohive ships, visible as distortions in spacetime, seemed to recoil from this new force they hadn't expected. But victory, she realized, would require more than just defending the sanctuary. As she watched her crew work alongside the Concordat, their minds expanding while still maintaining their essential human perspective, she understood that this was just the beginning of a much larger battle. The question was, were they ready for what came next? The sanctuary shimmered with combined energy as human and Concordat minds worked in harmony. Through the quantum displays, Commander Winter watched as reality itself seemed to heal around them, the Chronohive's temporal attacks faltering against their unified defense. They're regrouping, Lieutenant Reed reported, his consciousness now able to perceive multiple timeline trajectories at once while maintaining his human center. Their ships are converging into some kind of temporal spiral formation. Dr. Patel's instruments, modified to interface with the sanctuary's quantum systems, displayed readings that would have been impossible to comprehend just days ago. They're pooling their temporal energy. If I'm reading this correctly, they're preparing to create a paradox cascade. A weapon of last resort, Naira explained, her crystalline form pulsing with concern. They'll sacrifice some of their own ships to create a chain reaction of temporal contradictions. If it reaches critical mass, reality itself will shatter, Zoran finished. They would rather destroy everything than accept a future they cannot control. Talia watched as her crew worked seamlessly with the Concordat members, their different perspectives on reality combining to create something entirely new. The human ability to maintain a linear core even while perceiving quantum possibilities had proven to be exactly what was needed to stabilize the temporal fractures. Then we don't let them reach critical mass, she stated, years of tactical training combining with her newly expanded consciousness. Naira, You said our linear perception acts as an anchor point for reality. What if we used that more actively? Understanding flickered across Naira's crystalline features. A temporal foundation. Using your human consciousness as a framework. She turned to the other sentinels. We could channel our quantum energy through their linear perspective, create a wave of pure, stabilized time. The calculations would have to be perfect, Dr. Patel cautioned, his scientific mind racing ahead to possibilities. Too much quantum energy through our human consciousness could shatter our ability to maintain that linear perspective you need. And if we succeed? Reed asked, his hands steady on controls that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Then we don't just stop their attack, Naira explained, her form brightening with hope. We create a template for how time should naturally flow. Every temporal fracture the chronohive has created would begin to heal itself. The sanctuary shuddered as the first waves of the paradox cascade reached them. Through the quantum displays, Talia watched as reality began to crack and fold in impossible ways. We need to act now, she decided. Dr. Patel, work with Zoran to calculate the exact quantum energy levels each human consciousness can safely channel. Reed, coordinate with the sanctuary's defense systems to maintain our position in quantum space. Everyone else, prepare yourselves. We're about to attempt something that's never been done in any timeline. As the crew took their positions, Talia felt Naira's presence beside her. The alien princess who had started this journey as a mysterious refugee had become something more, a bridge between two species whose differences made them stronger together. Are you ready? Naira asked, her form synchronized with the sanctuary's pulse. Talia nodded, feeling the weight of not just humanity's future, but the very fabric of reality resting on what they were about to attempt. Together. The process began slowly at first. Each human crew member focused on their inherent understanding of time's linear flow while Concordat members channeled their quantum energy through this stable framework. The sensation was indescribable, like being simultaneously grounded and infinite. Through the quantum displays, they watched as their combined energy met the chronohive's paradox cascade. Linear time and quantum possibility merged into something new, a wave of pure, stabilized reality that began to spread outward from the sanctuary. The effect was immediate and breathtaking. Temporal fractures began to seal themselves as natural time flow was restored. The chronohive ships, caught in their own paradox cascade, found their temporal manipulation abilities negated by this new force they couldn't control. It's working, Dr. Patel announced, his voice filled with wonder. The temporal damage is healing itself, using our combined template as a guide. They watched as the chronohive vessels began to fade from quantum space, forced back into normal reality by the wave of stabilized time. Without their ability to manipulate multiple timelines, they were no longer the unstoppable force they had believed themselves to be. As the last effects of the paradox cascade dissipated, Talia felt the sanctuary's energy shift from crisis to calm. The displays showed a universe where time once again flowed as it should, with quantum possibilities existing in harmony with linear progression rather than in conflict. What happens now? She asked, looking at the Concordat members who had become allies and friends. Naira's form shimmered with what might have been a smile. Now, Commander Winter, we begin the real work. Your people have proven themselves ready for a deeper understanding of reality, and we have remembered the value of seeing time through simpler eyes. Together, we can ensure the temporal fractures never threaten existence again. And the chronohive? They'll adapt, Zoran offered. Or they'll fade into memory. Either way, they can no longer impose their will on reality itself. The natural flow of time, supported by both our people's perspectives, is stronger than any artificial manipulation. Looking at her crew, Talia saw how much they had changed while remaining fundamentally human. They had expanded their understanding of reality beyond anything their ancestors could have imagined, yet maintained the very qualities that made them unique. I suppose I should contact Earth, she mused. Explaining all this to the Alliance leadership will be interesting. Dr. Patel chuckled. Perhaps we should start with the basics. Like how humanity's first official contact with alien life led to us helping save reality itself. Actually, Naira interjected, her form brightening, I believe your people have a saying that would be appropriate here, the best way to predict the future is to help create it. Together, we've done more than save reality, we've opened the door to possibilities that neither of our species could have achieved alone. As Talia looked out at the healed fabric of spacetime, she realized Naira was right. This wasn't an ending but a beginning. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger understanding of existence, guided not by conquest or fear, but by the simple willingness to offer help when needed. The universe, it seemed, would never be quite the same. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.